I just want to do God's will.
What you're seeking is a blessing from God.
You must expect a miracle.
You have the power of choice.
Believe on the Lord Jesus Christ.
Welcome to Life Today Live. Randy Robinson here. And you know, through the years, I can't even believe I'm saying that, the years of COVID and the distancing and the masking and hiding our faces and hiding ourselves for fear of disease and death, and rightly so. I don't mean to make light of it. But one thing we did learn through that whole process is that we are creatures of connection. We are made to be with people. And really the height of that outside of marriage, family, would be friendships. And we need friendships. As Christians, I think we need two kinds of friendships, and we'll get maybe some into the detail of that. I don't know. But the fact is we need to connect with people for our own health, spiritually, emotionally, mentally. And so today we're gonna talk about that. And I have got someone who has written a book that is out now. It's you're gonna enjoy this. It's called I'll Be There, and I'll Be Wearing Sweatpants. So Amy Weatherly is my guest today, and their book is out and available and fun. But we're going to talk about it. So we appreciate you being here. If you haven't followed or liked or hit subscribe or share, things like that, do that now. This is a good conversation. Amy, great to have you on Life Today Live.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
So I don't want to presume too much about the sweatpants here. But
I am wearing them.
Are you wearing them now?
Yeah, that's everybody's first question. Are you wearing sweatpants now? I am.
That's great. I don't. Yeah, I'm not a sweatpants kind of guy. But that's beside the point entirely. Yeah. So let's hit sort of the title in the top here, and like what are you trying to communicate just in that humorous but significant title?
Well, it's just kind of a thing that I think we go through a lot of our lives feeling like this is the person we need to be. This is who I need to show up as. And it's sort of like a very filtered image. We need to present this image of perfection and like I have it all together and I say the right things and I do the right things. And we want to break that down and help people show up as yourself. Show up, find friendships that are comfortable where you can relax and where you don't have to be filtered. You don't have to be perfect. You can be vulnerable and authentic because that's really the only way to connect with people is when we show up as ourselves.
Yeah. Now your co-author is Jess Johnston,
Yeah.
but she's not just a co-author. What is Jess to you?
Well, so we're very good friends and we just have a funny story of how we met. We met online. We had never even met in person when we started this whole thing. She was another writer that I admired her. I liked the way she wrote. And we kind of have similar styles. If anyone's read the book, you can tell. Like there are certain things where we've written and we'll go back and I'll be like, Jess, did you write that? Did I write that? Which one of us wrote that? We have very similar styles. So I was sort of drawn to her. I liked her. I liked the way she presented herself online. So I just sent her a message and said, hey, I'm a big fan of you. I'd love to work together. I'd just love to know you better. And that it sort of went from there. We went from Instagram messages to phone calls. And one day I just had this idea, like a light bulb moment out of nowhere. And I called up Jess and I was like, Jess, I have this idea. I think we need to start a page called Sister I Am With You. All about friendship. I don't think there's another space on the internet like it. I don't think there's another space that's talking about friendship in like a real and like the nitty gritty and the ugly and the insecurities and what happens when we feel rejected. I don't think there's another place like that. And Jess was just really excited and she's like, okay, I'm in, let's do it. So Sister I'm With You was born in about 5 minutes. And then after it exploded, like we had 100,000 followers within the first couple weeks.
Wow.
Which just grew really, really quickly. And after that, we met each other in person. And luckily, we liked each other in person even more. And it all just, kind of flowed from that. But it just started with a compliment.
What does that tell you when you get that sort of explosive growth? This is a Facebook group that you guys started, and we'll show you the website. You guys do have a website. But what did that tell you when that many people jumped onto it?
You just realize you've hit a felt need. You hit it. And sometimes you do and sometimes you don't. But that's what we realized. We realized, and now that we've done more research, we felt like people were disconnected. We felt like people were lonely. We felt like people felt like, okay, is there something wrong with me? Like, what am I missing here? What am I missing? And especially as Christians, especially as a Christian, I know I felt for a long time, is it okay that I feel lonely? Is it okay that I crave friendships? Like, isn't Jesus supposed to be all that I need? But why do I have this deep longing to really connect with people? Is that okay? And so the more we've got into it, the more we've just realized that loneliness hurts, and it is a huge factor of our overall health, our physical health. Nothing impacts it like loneliness, nothing. And we just realized what a big problem that it was. And the more we realized that women needed it, the more we just really wanted to give to them, to give them the tools. Because that's one of the things I think from the very beginning, I was like, 2 things will change your life. That's Jesus and friendship. So let's see if we can produce that.
Okay, so I'm just curious about you personally. Where did the Jesus come into it for you? Were you raised in the church? Did you come
I was raised in church. I was raised in church and, went through college through a phase where I don't know really what I believe and I'm not sure where I'm at. And then, kind of came back to it and that's it. But I grew up in church.
Yeah. Okay. So I asked that because I'm wondering I did too. Why do we not know this growing up in church? Are we getting some misconceptions either directly or indirectly, or is this sort of a human condition thing? Where are we missing it?
I don't know, because it's funny to me when people say that, because even Jess wrote a piece not too long ago about feeling lonely, about being lonely on her Facebook page, and she got quite a few comments of people who were like, well, what you need is Jesus. If you have Jesus, you'll never be lonely. And I was like, okay, well, that's where it comes from. It comes from stuff like that, where of course that's not true. Of course that's not true. Jesus didn't do life alone. I don't know what makes us think that we were supposed to. We're not supposed to. He didn't do life alone. We're not supposed to do life alone. We are social creatures to the core, who God made us to be. He made us to have community with each other. And I don't know where that got lost, but it did.
Yeah, and it almost hurts me when you say that if you got Jesus, you're never lonely, because it's true that right. God is always with us. But you look all through Scripture. I mean, Jesus chose disciples, and he had a couple that were especially close. I mean, you go all the way back to Moses. God gave him Aaron. I mean, it's God's pattern. So it's true that you're never alone in Christ, with Christ, but it's also true that God's design, we go all the way back to Adam and Eve. It's not good for man to be alone. I mean, this is so even though it's a true statement, it's in the way it's used, it's kind of missing something, isn't it?
Kind of missing something, and I think it creates shame.
Yeah.
It creates shame that can we admit that we're lonely, or are people going to look at us and, oh, well, you're not deep enough in your faith? Well, no, that's not necessarily true. Because just like you said, I can't think of a single person in the Bible who did life alone. David had Jonathan. I mean, it went together. And that was the whole design, was for us really to do life together. It wouldn't, I don't know, but I feel like it creates some kind of shame for us to admit it. And, it's just not true.
It's just not, and that's the easiest way to put it. It's just not true. We're supposed to have these real vulnerable friendships that you're talking about. So you're younger than me, but the internet is a weird thing, because you met Jess online, and I think properly placed it can be beneficial, but how do we fit this in? Because the artificial is artificial, and we need the real, right?
Yeah, we need the real. I think there are layers of connection that just matter more. And I think the more, I think one of the things that has happened is technology has advanced very, very, very quickly, but our brains haven't really caught up to that. So our brains, why we crave this connection that is hard to get to, is because technology has kind of taken it away from us. But I don't think all forms of connection were created equal. If you have a conversation with somebody online, that's not going to mean the same as having somebody over for coffee. Those two things aren't equal. We tend to text over a phone conversation, and texting is great. I use it every day. A phone call normally means more. There's just a depth of communication there, of connection, of hearing the person's voice. So I do think technology has taken that away a little bit, where we all have, a certain amount of energy that we're able to put out there every day. And I think we're putting a lot of our energy to social media, and that's probably not the best place for it.
Yeah. Yeah, I think you're right. I think the balance is good. And my kids are all in their 20s, and they like to, act like I'm a complete idiot when it comes to the internet. And I'm like, look, it's my generation that created this, so you're welcome, But that has presented challenges in adapting and knowing the proper balance and how to use it. And if we can use the internet, which you guys have effectively done, to supplement the real, then I think it can be enhanced, but it's definitely not a substitute for it. All right.
It's not a substitute. It's like it's better than nothing, but it's not the best.
Yeah. And I think we found that out through the pandemic as well. I want to show people your website right here. It's sisterimwithyou.com. And that is available for you. And there's some great resources there. But, of course, the Facebook group. Now, every time you do an interview like this, do you just find lots more people jumping into your Facebook group?
It's a pretty large page. We hit 1 million.
Oh, my word.
we hit it, I think, back in January. So it's a pretty large group already.
Yeah, it is. And I'm curious, what is it everything you expected it to be, or is not, I don't mean in size, but as far as what it's doing and the feedback you're getting, or have you been surprised by some of the things you've learned through that experience?
I'm kind of this weird person. I go into things pretty humbly and going, okay, God, let's see what you have. Let's just see what you do. And I'm going to try not to hold too tightly to anything, because if there's anything I've learned through writing and this online stuff, I don't have that much control over it. What does well, what doesn't. There's, you know what I'm saying? Does that make sense?
Sure.
I don't have much control. So I try to just be really humble in it and hold on to it very lightly and say, you know what? Let's just see what you have, God. And so I would say, and I'm pretty realistic. So I had no idea that it would grow this much this fast. Right. I will say that, Sister, I'm with you. I did not see that coming. I knew there would be a book. I knew there was something. We knew there was something, and we started it before the pandemic. So we started it before the pandemic, and then the pandemic happened, and we did see this total shift of women already were feeling this, but it just exacerbated everything, where they were like, oh, okay, I want friends dropping off stuff on my front porch. I need people I can FaceTime. And we wanted friendships to be really solid and strong right in that moment. But the truth is, we hadn't been cultivating them before.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? So it was this moment where we were like, man, I wish I would have gone to those parties when I got invited. Mm-hmm. I wish I would have showed up. Mm-hmm. I wish I wouldn't have been so busy with all this stupid stuff, and I just could have been there with people. But of course, I'm very surprised. I'm surprised, but it is the kindest, most encouraging. I've written online for years, and Sister I'm With community is one of the best out there, in my opinion. And it's not me, it's our followers are kind, and they want this, and they're good. They're good. I mean, it's so rare that we get a really ugly comment that it just almost blows my mind.
So, I mean, so what are they saying? What are they learning that they're taking with them as you're getting feedback from them on it?
Do you know what I think the biggest thing is I think sometimes when we raise our hand and go, yeah, I've been rejected. Mm. Yes, I felt like I didn't belong. Yes, I've wondered what was wrong with me. And yes, I've struggled with these things as an adult. And we raise our hand and say, me too. Then I think other women feel the power to go, or other people feel the power to say, oh my goodness, I'm not alone. I'm not alone in that. I'm not the only one. And some of that shame gets erased. And when we can erase shame, that's just a really beautiful, beautiful thing.
So there is the issue of toxic friendships. Yes. And I think that experience, I mean, we all get there sometimes. If you haven't, you are the toxic friendship.
Yeah.
Right. But that can burn us. That can make us retreat into our shell. You talk about it feeling like high school 2.0, right?
Yeah.
How do we know? We got to have the discernment and some wisdom in this. And not all friends are meant to be our best friends, right? What's sort of the balance in really finding the table where we belong?
I think I mean, it's like sweatpants. It's a place that's forgiving. It's a place that is understanding and full of grace, and where I think we know. I think we tend to know, hey, this is a place where I really have to tiptoe, and if I really give my opinion and say how I feel here, it's not going to go well. It's not going to be met with understanding. The conversation's not going to be deep and good and rich. I'm going to be cut off. I'm going to feel small here. And then I sit here and I feel like I can breathe. We all want to be sitting in places where we feel like we can breathe. But I think it's important for women and people to know that it takes time to get there. It does take the first time you meet with somebody, it's awkward. The first time you have a conversation, it's a little bit awkward, and the awkward is okay. We should expect the awkward to happen. Yeah. But it's kind of knowing when to push through and when to pull back. And I think that's a very hard thing, because our culture is pretty quick to be like, if you don't serve me, bye. And that's not really a good way to live either, because it's not really about serving us. Friendship is like a free flow between us. It should go two ways. There should be a shared mutual interest there. And I hate the kind of the thank you next mentality that we have, and we just label people as toxic. And I'm like, most people aren't toxic. Yeah. Most people aren't toxic. Most people are good, and most people are trying their best. It's just more about realizing where we fit and where we don't.
So I have experienced in my lifetime the dynamic where I maybe have not been the good friend. May have said something that hurt someone, whether usually just careless words on my part or completely inadvertent. And that can just destroy the relationship right there. I mean, especially if it's early on. I mean, it can be that's a deal killer right there. Yeah. How important is it that we learn to suck it up, have some humility, and maybe apologize once in a while? Because I've done that and found a great friend on the other side of it.
Yeah, it's huge when we can learn to have those conversations and be humble enough to apologize. Like, if we're going through life thinking that we have never messed up and it's always everybody else's problem, then we're going through it wrong. When I read my Bible, it's always funny to me when people read the Bible and feel like, oh, everybody needs to change. I have never once read my Bible and felt like everybody needs to change. I read my Bible and I think, oh, Amy, you've got to do some work.
Well, you're doing it right.
You need, this is you and God. And so you've got to have grace and understanding and realize every single one of us has messed up. Every single one of us. We've all gossiped. We've all said things we shouldn't have. We've all fallen short. So give the other person grace. But having those conversations and that confrontation is so healthy and so good. And I think sometimes we're scared of it because we feel like confrontation is a tearing apart. But really, confrontation, when it's done in the right way, it will bring us together. I don't want a friendship to end because I misunderstood something that they said, or because they took something, the wrong way and filtered it through. We tend to take things and we filter them through the whatever we're dealing with our life. That's how we take it. Yeah. If we're stressed out and already angry and bitter, and someone says something, it's pretty easy to take that the wrong way. And so I think that those conversations where you can say, hey, this really hurt my feelings. Can we talk about it? I'm sure you didn't mean it that way, but can we talk about it? It will strengthen the right relationships, and it will filter out the wrong ones. Because if you can't have a conversation like that, it's not really a safe place. That's
a great point. That's a great point, which makes it really worth it in the end, because you find out one way or the other. Yeah. At least you're going to figure it out. But you talk about reading the Bible that way. I was in church recently, and the pastor was preaching. I'm like, this is really good. I wish so and so could hear this. And it was like the Holy Spirit's like, so and so is not here. You are. So maybe this is for you. And so a lot of you guys, maybe this is for you. And if you want to follow up, the book is I'll Be There and I'll Be Wearing Sweatpants by our guest, Amy Weatherly, and her friend, Jess Johnston. So I would encourage you to pick it up and do the hard work. What have you found sort of the payoff is as you've done this?
Oh, well, like in my own friendships?
Yeah.
I mean, I would say the biggest thing has been my own friendships. There's nothing like, the book has done really well, and that's cool.
Right.
But
No, I mean personally, yeah.
Okay, I was like, because if anything, I've learned that like that stuff is fine, but it is nothing like your real life connections and having real life people.
Right.
It has just deepened the community that I have. Like I made a commitment when I was writing this book, because when you're writing a book and then you start launching it, like everything gets crazy and everybody's like, okay, do this. Here's 1 million interviews. You know, we were talking before we even started about like everybody suddenly wants you to join TikTok and you're like, no, I'm full. I cannot join the TikTok right now. And I can't even wrap my mind around a 10-second video and making it funny. I can't even wrap my head around that. It was really important to me. One of the things that I made sure of when I was doing this, that I was like, I will not get so busy that I lose my real life friends while I'm writing a book on friendship.
Right.
I will not put them on the back burner.
Right.
So it was just a commitment that I made where every Tuesday, there's a group of 4 of us that are really, really close. We have coffee every Tuesday. And that was like all interviews are off the table for Tuesday. All book writing, it's off the table for Tuesday. On Tuesday, I connect with my friends. And it's like growing a plant. Like if you want to grow a plant, you should probably water it. And you should probably I've never successfully grown a plant, but these are the things that I think I hear this, what goes into it. But you've got to water it. You've got to take time to kind of nurture it.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing with friendships. You take time. So my friendships blossomed during this time because I realized how incredibly valuable they are to my life, not just now, but in the future. I'm going to need these strong friendships. Yeah. We're going to go through hard stuff later on. So we have to build the friendships now so that they can withstand those storms that are inevitably going to come.
Yeah, no, that's true. I'm guessing that's a fake tree over your left shoulder.
Oh, very fake. Yes.
but the friendships are real, people. The friendships are real.
Friendships are real. All plants are fake.
Here's a question that I think is important, and it was one that I don't know if somebody told me this early in life. I just didn't hear it, but I had to learn it a little bit the hard way. You're married. You've got a husband. You've got kids, correct?
Yeah.
I think, especially in the Christian world, I know in my life, I hit a point where after years of marriage, I was frustrated with my wife because she was not everything I needed in my relationships. Totally unfair to her. She did nothing wrong, right? No inadequacy on her part. What it was were expectations on my part where what I needed were some strong guy Christian friends. Do you think a lot of, especially Christian married couples, can easily fall into this trap where we don't realize, we need more than just the spouse? That's not to denigrate the spouse at all, but it's to put them in their proper role, which is not to be my buddies, to go hang out if I want to go biking through the woods or something, because she hates that, right?
Yeah. Yes, I think that gets lost a lot, and that's actually a comment. We do see that comment fairly often. It's like, well, my spouse is my best friend. I don't need anybody else.
Yeah, you do.
And it's like that Jerry Maguire, you complete me thing.
Oh, I hate that.
I hate it too, because I'm like, young people, maybe they don't watch Jerry Maguire. I don't know. It's been out for a while. But your spouse is your support system. My husband, I would say he's my best friend. But he's not my everything. He wasn't made to be my everything. He's a human. And that's way too much pressure to put on one person. Yeah. Like anytime, like if I want to talk about stuff with the kids, he experiences our kids in a totally different way than I do. Mm-hmm. I'm with him all the time. I take him to school. I pick him up from school. He does, he is coaching my son's football team right now. We experience them in different ways, but my friends are more going through it with me, where I'm like, oh my goodness, my 5-year-old, I'll just tell you all this right now. My 5-year-old would not put on shoes this morning. She wouldn't put on shoes. She wouldn't put on socks. I had to take her to school barefoot because she wouldn't do it. And I was like, here are her shoes. I hope that you can get her to put them on. I cannot. But my husband isn't dealing with that. So it's just nice to have a friend to call up and go, hey, oh my goodness, are you walking these same roads I am?
Yeah, no
It's
doubt.
just, it's a whole different kind of thing. And I think when we have those friendships, it does take off some of the pressure of our spouse that they
Yes,
don't
it
have to share everything.
Yes, it
Because I'll tell you, if I start talking about, like, let's say I want to talk about, I don't know, pop culture, or like, do you know that the royal family and Kate Middleton, my husband's like,
Yep, checked out. I'm gone.
I do not care. I do not care. And I'm like, you don't care at all? And he's like, no. And I'm like, okay, well, I've got to go talk to my friends about this thing.
Right. And I think that's proper. I think it's important that we say that's proper. And I think God actually designed it that way. Because what I ended up doing was finding disappointment in my wife. Again, no fault of hers, but because I had these unreasonable expectations that I had placed on her while she's raising 4 kids, and it was kind of like a I don't know, revelation is probably not the right word, but it was like, duh, you need some male guy friends to spend some time with, so that you don't have that disconnect it creates with your spouse, because you're trying to put them in a role that God didn't design them to be in.
Exactly. And there is something, I mean, I am very lucky. My husband loves when I go out with my friends, because I always come home and I'm
in a good
happy.
mood.
I'm happy. I'm in a good mood. I have, he likes it. Like, when it's done right, I mean, friendships, they just bring a richness to your life all around. It genuinely, they help you. Like, even moments with my kids, like my 5-year-old this morning, I'm laughing about it now, but this morning I was not laughing about it. I was so aggravated. But whenever I'm able to talk to my friend and tell that story to her, she helped me find the humor in it. And so immediately my mood changed because I was able to talk it out with a friend. And that's just a beautiful thing. And it carries us through life. And when we go through hard times, you can have your spouse's perspective when you go through a hard time, but to have somebody else's perspective and kind of give to you in a whole different way, it just makes life so much richer. And we have this habit as humans of not doing things that make us happy. We don't make time for things that actually bring us joy for whatever reason. But our time with our friends tend to make us happy, and they tend to bring us joy, and we should do more of it.
Yeah, that's so good. So good. And you know what? That's encouragement for you guys watching right there. Be encouraged. And there are people out there that would be really good friends. It is a little bit of work, and I think it's worth the work putting it into it. Amy, I appreciate your time, your insight, your enthusiasm. Is there anything that you want to mention that I failed to hit before I let you go?
I mean, no, this was a great interview. I really enjoyed it.
Well, yeah.
I hope that it will encourage people to cultivate those friendships and to really invest and to really just think about the way that we do life is that we really weren't made to do it alone. It will bring a whole new depth to every area in our life if we can kind of do life with people. And it is awkward at first.
Yep.
And sometimes it gets complicated and sometimes it gets hard, but it is worth it. And it's the only way I know to do life. And it's the only way Jesus did life. So it's the only way I want to do it too.
Yep. It's the way we're supposed to. So thank you, Amy. It's been a great conversation. I appreciate, again, all your encouragement and your insight and your enthusiasm.
I'm very passionate on this subject.
It is great. Fabulous. Appreciate you guys hanging out, watching. Hit share, hit like, subscribe, follow, and come back because we've got more great interviews. You can pick up the book, I'll Be There, and I'll Be Wearing Sweatpants, wherever you pick up books. And check out the website. See you again next time here on Live Today Live.
See it in a specific place. It is the believing of the heart. It is faith